about this.
Hello everyone, here we are. We are getting ready to start our Proverbs. So today is July 1st. I'm Matthew.
I'm Daniel.
And we are?
The Brothers Reborn.
I totally missed that.
That's all right. we know it was in there in spirit.
The lines were messing with me.
Right.
So, and by the lines, I'm talking about the lines on the phone. Everybody, not like I'm seeing lines in my vision or anything like that. There was some little squigglies going up and down, and I was like, I got mesmerized for a second.
I got little squigglies in my eye. Oh wait, that's a different squiggly.
I am excited to start our Proverbs today. So and as we do these every day, there won't be no long drawn out thing like there is today. We're just gonna get into our Proverbs each and every day as we read, and then we can even talk about them. You know, what they mean to us and what they mean to you, right? Because don't just do it just to do a challenge, right? To just read a proverb, right? It's to get you into your Bible more and to get you to understand the Word even better, to spend some time with God and talk to Him.
Right, and like we've said before, we've even heard other pastors say, don't just read it to fulfill what you believe is an obligation. When you get into your Word, get into it. If you only get a couple verses and that's what the Spirit tells you, then stop there and pick it back up. Mm-hmm. When you feel like, oh, I can get some more out of it. But don't do it just because, oh, I got to read this much today.
Right. I think, a lot of times people get locked up into the, read the Bible in a year challenge and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with reading the Bible in a year. That's not what I'm saying. But if you read it just because you're reading a storybook and you're not actually getting anything out of it, you need to take a step back and say, you know what? I need to get some food, some sustenance from this word, because that's what it is. This is the bread of life. That's what we're reading. So, but with that, we'll go ahead and start Proverbs 1. Okay, so Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1. The purpose of Proverbs. These are the Proverbs of Solomon, David's son, king of Israel. Their purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help them understand the insights of the wise. Their purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives, to help them do what is right, just, and fair. These proverbs will give insight to the simple, knowledge and discernment to the young. Let the wise listen to these proverbs and become even wiser. Let those with understanding receive guidance. By exploring the meaning in these proverbs and parables, the words of the wise and their riddles. Fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline.
So, moving on, a father's exhortation, acquire wisdom. At verse 8, my child, listen when your father corrects you. Don't neglect your mother's instruction. What you learn from them will crown you with grace and be a chain of honor around your neck. My child, if sinners entice you, turn your back on them. They may say, come and join us. Let's hide and kill someone. Just for the fun, let's ambush the innocent. Let's swallow them alive like the grave. Let's swallow them whole like those who go down to the pit of death. Think of the great things we'll get. We'll fill our houses with all the stuff we take. Come, throw in your lot with us. We'll all share the loot. My child, don't go along with them. Stay far away from their past. They rush to commit evil deeds. They hurry to commit murder. If a bird sees a trap being set, it knows to stay away. But these people set an ambush for themselves. They are trying to get themselves killed. Such is the fate of all who are greedy for money. It robs them of life.
Wisdom shouts in the streets. Verse 20. Wisdom shouts in the streets. She cries out in the public square. She calls to the crowds along the main street, to those gathered in front of the city gate. How long, you simpletons, will you insist on being simple-minded? Don't be impressed. Skip the whole page. How long will you mockers relish your mocking? How long will you fools hate knowledge? Come and listen to my counsel. I'll share my heart with you and make you wise. I called you so often, but you wouldn't come. I reached out to you, but you paid no attention. You ignored my advice and rejected the correction I offered. So I will laugh when you are in trouble. I will mock you when disaster overtakes you. When calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster engulfs you like a cyclone, and anguish and distress overwhelm you. When they cry for help, I will not answer. Though they anxiously search for me, they will not find me. For they hated knowledge and chose not to fear the Lord. They rejected my advice and paid no attention when I corrected them. Therefore they must eat the bitter fruit of living their own way, choking on their own schemes. For simpletons turn away from me to death. Fools are destroyed by their own complacency. But all who listen to me will live in peace, untroubled by fear of harm. That is Proverb 1, chapter 1, okay? So, wow. That's a powerful one, huh?
Yeah. And verse 24 really hits me, convicts me, and I'm not going to treat the Bible like I treat you. I'm not going to not talk to the Bible because I love getting into my word, but it says, I called you so often, but you wouldn't come. I reached out to you, but you paid no attention. And I personally I can't name the exact days where my brother Matthew here knows that when I say a few years ago, that might have been a decade or two ago. But I know of at least 2 instances that he had tried to call me and I ignored that call.
Yeah, I think that happens to a lot of people, and even verse 25 that says you ignored my advice and rejected the correction I offered. This goes back to what we've been talking about in James too. That's listening and doing, right? And sometimes we just hear, but we don't do, right? And it's telling you right here. I called so often, like you said. But what you should be worried about is what it talks about later.
Right.
When he says, oh, now you call, I'm not coming.
Right.
Right? Because you've had no fear of me. You've had no fear of the Lord. And fear doesn't mean you're scared of him because you're scared that he's an angry God and he's going to hurt you. It's a fear of knowing that he can and he will, right? It's that fear of him being your father. Right? You respect him. That's what kind of fear it is. It's a respect. So, and it says, this is what it's talking about when it says, you hated knowledge and all this. This is knowledge, the word right here is knowledge. It's the truth. And those people who are mocking the word and don't want to do the word and all that, and then all of a sudden something happens in their life and they say, God, I need you now. He says, you've been mocking me. You've told people that I'm not real. You don't fear me. You don't treat me like anything. I don't believe you.
Right.
Right.
and it to me, it kind of earlier in this proverb, it kind of foreshadows to right here where he was saying that you mocked me, you didn't want to know, because if we go all the way back to verse 10 in this proverb, my child, if sinners entice you, turn your back on them. They may say, come and join us. Let's hide and kill someone. Just for fun, let's ambush the innocent. Now, every time a sinner is going to try to ambush you, might not be for murder. There's probably some out there that would try to entice you for murder. But, it's going to be them things that murder the spirit that they're going to be trying to get you to do.
Absolutely, and a lot of it is just used with your tongue. And it talks about in the Bible. We'll be getting to it. It talks about it in James, I know, and it talks about it other places that the tongue can set the spark that starts the wildfire, right? And it says the tongue can bring death, right? And it's talking about a spiritual death, an emotional death, right? You can really break somebody with your tongue,
Right.
the words you say to them. And sometimes people have said things so detrimental to people that they have taken their own lives, right? That's just the way it is. So those sinners that entice you can be for, like you said, not just murder, as in I'm going to kill somebody physically. It could be doing things. You can be stealing their joy, their happiness, their peace. You can be murdering those things in their life by your actions. And so, but God also tells us He will never leave us or forsake us, right? So as we read this proverb, don't think, oh wait, He'll never love me. He will. What He's telling you is you got to want the knowledge and the truth, and you got to fear Him, a respectful fear. Don't just come to Him because you need something. I've talked about it before. He doesn't want to be your stepdaddy, your sugar daddy, or your side piece. That's what He's telling you right here.
Right. And at the very end of the very first chapter, He tells you, if you're worried that you can't never, He tells you, but all who listen to me will live in peace, untroubled by fear or harm. So that means there's still a chance.
Right, absolutely, and this uses one of those words like I like to talk about a lot when it talks about Jesus healed them all. Right, these words are the same here as well. We just reading verse 33. But all who listen to me will live in peace. Not some, not most, not a few. It says, but all who listen to me will live in peace, untroubled by fear of harm. It can't get no more simple than that. It says all. So that's the first proverb in a nutshell, right? Solomon was known to be the wisest person in the Bible, wisest person in the world, okay? Because that's what he asked God for. He asked God for wisdom to rule his people, God's people, not Solomon's people. So God thought that was so amazing, so He made him the wisest man, and then this wise man decided to give us, 31 proverbs that, if they come from the wisest. Now we know. Now sometimes I often wonder about Solomon, because it said he had like 1,000 wives, and I was thinking maybe he didn't use that wisdom too well.
Right.
A lot of times having one can be tough, right? So.
Well, that's how he got all his wisdom, because women tend to know more than men, or at least that's the assumption in the fleshly assumptions.
Oh yeah, I think some people. I think there's a lot of male chauvinists out there,
right,
who think women don't know anything. So, I'm not part of that group. I believe we were all created equally. But I do know what you're talking about. There's a lot of people who feel that way. A lot of women that I know, like, hey, you don't know nothing. But I know plenty of men who are like, hey, don't listen to that broad. She don't know nothing.
Yeah, it goes both ways. It's just.
But I think that Solomon, we found later on he quits listening to the Lord, and he does things that he's not supposed to do, which we see that happen a lot with a lot of different people in the Bible. I did a lesson on Jehoshaphat tonight, and and I was talking about spiritual warfare, but later on it talks about he quit doing what
Right.
God wanted him to do, and then he gets punished for it. That's what happens when we are living for the Lord and we're listening and we're doing. We're rewarded, because at that time Jehoshaphat was rewarded, him and his people, with 3 days worth of plunder.
Right.
They didn't have to fight. They didn't have to do nothing. But then later, when they were disobedient, things fell. He lost his reign. He wasn't able to keep receiving the things that he was receiving when he was going for God. And Solomon's pretty much summing that all up for you right here. True wisdom will come from God. True wisdom and knowledge, that's something that we should all be praying for daily. The wisdom and knowledge of God and the understanding to be able to use that. Because it's a whole big different thing if you know all that stuff, but you don't know how to use it, or you use it for evil. Right. There's very smart people that know how to do very bad things very good.
Right.
And that's not good.
Well, another way to put it, and I'm just going to use this, and this is a personal, and it's not something in the Bible, but say you had a doctor. I'll go with doctor, not just paramedic. He knows how to heal people, or knows how to help heal people in the flesh. And somebody's stabbed or whatever, and he walks by. If he does not use that knowledge, that person's still going to die.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing to me. If you don't use this knowledge in the Word, then you will die spiritually.
Right, absolutely. And along those same lines, that very wise doctor also knows some concoctions to kill you and not get caught, right? Or some ways to make you die quickly, or whatever, right? So he could use that same wisdom for evil just as well as he could for good. And that's why I say, that wisdom and that understanding, you want to be able to use it wisely, like you were talking about, and to help that person, and to not just either walk by and do nothing, or even worse, use it for evil. Because there's just there's people that study this word to use it against you. That's just how they are. They don't believe a word of it. They only study it so that they can tear it apart. They can pick it apart. And they can pick believers apart. But you don't have to worry, because if you got the wisdom of the Lord, which is in all these pages, you don't have nothing to worry about. God's big enough, he can protect his own reputation. We've talked about that before, and it's still true today. So that is Proverbs 1 for July the 1st. Tomorrow will be July the 2nd, and we will do Proverbs 2. And so on and so forth. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody. Encourage everybody to try the Proverb Challenge. If they don't get to it this month, guess what? Next month's 31 days too, so they can try it then.
It is. He was using the knuckle trick so he could make sure there was 31 days in August as well.
Do it on the knuckles. And I was right. There's 31 days. So if you don't get it this month, get it next month. Or do it this month and next month. Hey. What do you think about that? Well, we thank you, everybody, for listening, and we are encouraged, and we want you to be encouraged, and we will see you again tomorrow, not only with a proverb, but we have a lesson tomorrow as well, so be ready for that. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.